I will share the recipes that Doreet is going to be making with us. She's going to be sharing a Yemenite Charoset and Hilbeh, which is a very important sauce in Yemenite tradition from what I understand. Doreet is a former techie. I mean, you can share more about your background. And the Malach bar is what, 2 or 3 years old now, right?
Right, just over 2 years, exactly. I was a former techie, like you said, for many years, and just wanted to expand. I thought this was going to be something just like a side hustle, but led me to something bigger. So this is so exciting, and I'm so excited to share with you recipes from my family. And so yeah, and now I'm in my own commercial kitchen, as you can see, and I'm also certified kosher from the Hawaij here in Northern California. I currently cater to the local area, but I hope to be shipping nationwide. So stay tuned for that. So today we'll be working on, I'll be demonstrating Hilbeh, which is a fenugreek dip, and also Yemenite Charoset, which is traditionally what we eat during Pesach, but obviously can be eaten all year round. So with the Hilbeh, for those of you that aren't familiar with this word, basically it's an Arabic word that means fenugreek. And fenugreek is a plant, and I'm not sure where it's originated from, but I'm assuming based India, maybe the Middle East as well. It's a plant that grows about 2 or 3 feet high and has yellow flowers. And within the flowers, there are these pods that grow these goldish brown seeds. And that is the seed of that plant, and that's what's called fenugreek. So basically, in the recipe that I sent, the fenugreek can then be either purchased whole as the seed, or ground into a powder form. I personally like the powder form. I've worked with both. If you use powder, you're actually eliminating a step, which is great, and it saves you a little bit more time. So we're going to start with the fenugreek powder, and I've given you the recipe, and I've asked you to put in 3 tablespoons. And for me, a tablespoon is basically, this is a teaspoon, a little bit bigger than this, but a heaping tablespoon, not a level tablespoon. So 3 heaping tablespoons. You're going to prepare it about 5 or 6 hours prior or the night before. You're going to place it in a bowl. Let me just grab a bowl here. Place it in a bowl, and then you're going to add water. Ideally, tap water is fine, cold water is okay. And you're going to cover the powder about 3/4 of the bowl, but make sure the powder is completely covered. Take a spoon, swirl it around, and then make sure it's kind of all mixed in there. And just let it be, cover it, let it be, place it on the countertop, and let it sit for 5 to 6 hours minimum, or overnight, which I do. And you'll notice that after that time frame, the sediment will actually fall to the bottom and then slowly gel into this jelly form. Now, just for you to be aware of, Hilbeh is pretty bitter in taste for those of you who haven't tried. The longer you let it soak in water, the less bitter it will be. There will still be some bitterness, but it will be slightly less the longer you let it sit. So I've let this sit. This is more than 3 tablespoons, but this is about 8 in here. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like after it's soaked. So basically, it was like a gel, sort of, kind of sticky jello form. So what I've done, I've opened the lid and I slowly poured out the water. You'll notice some of the gel will fall out. No worries, but try to keep it inside. And you want to really mix that mixture well, because you'll notice it's going to be clunky. So mix it well without the water, since you've spilled it. You're going to mix it, and you're going to have this consistency. So now I'm going to prepare the Hilbeh in a blender. You need a blender because you need for it to mix with the other ingredients on high. Okay, so if you notice, this is sort of like a goldish, maybe even a tan hue to it. When I put it in the blender and I mix it with water, and then I allow air to circulate inside, it's going to turn white or lighter in color. So I'm going to put in let's say if I put 3 tablespoons of powder, it would usually double in bulk. So I would say a good 6 tablespoons in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just being approximate here. Okay.
You measure like a grandma, right, Doreet?
I'll tell you, I learned from my mom and my grandmother. I asked them how much tablespoons, what are the measurement? They would tell me, this much, you know. So it's like I had to finally document it. So I'm happy to say that I'm documenting my family recipes finally.
Great, that's so great.
Yeah. So and then I'm gonna add. I said a half a cup of water. Now be very careful with the water. Always start with smaller amounts. So start with about an eighth of a cup to a quarter of a cup. You can add in the rest of the ingredients. However, I wouldn't, because I want to make sure the texture is how I'd like it to be. So again, the goal here is to get a nice light and white and fluffy, get the air circulated in it. Okay, this is going to be a little loud. And again, high for about a minute. Stop it early, just to show you. I don't know if you see in here, it's light, but you see these bubbles? That's what you want. This is the air circulating inside. So you're holding lots of air in here. That's a good sign. Now, I look at it. Now, this is all about experience and basing the texture on practice. Now, right now, look at that. If I'm going to shake it, I see it's not really wiggling as much. It needs a little bit more water. Okay, I still have the rest of the water to add in there, so I'm going to pour it in. But always keep extra water in hand. Another about a quarter of a cup or so. Again, I'm going to blend it until I get the right texture. It's less than a minute, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to cut it short slightly. Open up the lid. Now, with Hilbeh, okay, so now as I shake it, this is an indicator, it's moving, okay? I want to take my spatula, because it's very gel-like, it will stick to the walls of the blender. So you kind of want to get everything mixed in there. So kind of scrape down the Hilbeh into the mixture so it's all inside. Okay.
Doreet, you want it to have a lot of air in it, is that right?
You want it to have a whipped look, like a whipped cream. So
okay.
let me know if you see this. It's like whippy. It's hard to tell from the camera here, but I see it. Because if you notice, when you whip egg whites, it's very whipped, light and frothy. The same idea with this. From my perspective, because I can see it, it's very frothy and very light. And I see it, kind of look at that. You can tell. Sort of like an egg white mixture, a little bit. So I'm looking at it. I've used my half a cup of water, even though I have some more water here. It looks good to me. So now I can go ahead and add my other ingredients. So what we have left is a little bit of lemon juice. Be very careful with how much lemon juice you have. You put in. I just put a little bit. And even though I put an eighth of a cup, try less is more. So put in less than that. I also need to add some salt. Again, I eyeball everything. So use about, for this much, about eighth to a quarter of a teaspoon. I'm just going to sprinkle some kosher salt. That to me is good. And now I usually, in Hilbeh, we add schug. So schug is a cilantro spicy dip, okay, usually made by the Yemenites. Now, I included in a recipe some additives. If you don't have schug, you can include garlic, you can put in cumin, some cilantro. That's the essence of schug, some red pepper flakes as well. You can add that, or you can have it just a base like this. Okay, up to you. But since I have slug, I make slug, I will add. And Yemenites love spicy food. And this is a staple in our cuisine. I'm gonna add that in there. I'm just looking for my lid, here it is. And then give it another go in the blender. It's so simple, so simple.
So Doreet, I have to ask you what might be a controversial question, as I do love zhug, but I don't ever make it myself. Maybe I should. And I do buy the one from Trader Joe's a lot. How do you feel? Have you tasted it? And what is your expert opinion on it?
Look, it's not the real thing. Okay, it's not made by Yemenite. It's different. I would say the consistency and the texture is very liquidy. Mine
Okay, interesting. So yours is thicker.
much. You want to have this able to be spreadable on, let's say, a piece of bread. Okay, that will soak right into it. Okay, since you asked.
No, I'm asking. I'm look. I mean, it's not my tradition. So
It's a dip. It's a spread. It's a dip. It's a condiment. It's a relish. It's whatever you want it to be, but you want it to be thick. It needs substance.
okay. So what I hear you saying is, Shannon, you should start making your own.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
Got it. Another blend. Food tastes better when you make it yourself, I think. Nothing better than homemade. And my spatula. And I wanted to give you kind of a look. This is ready. Right. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is much lighter in colors when we started. So I'll show you. Okay, there you go. And I'm wiggle. See how it's wiggling, sort of like a jello? That's the kind of, and it's light. Okay, and see how it plops, it sits right on there. That's kind of like what an egg white would do. It just kind of sit on top. So that's what you want. And we eat this usually, traditionally with bread. We use it as a dip. We use heaping tablespoons into soup. So we just stick it in the soup and allow it to float on top. And we just drink the soup that way. It's so delicious. And you know, it's, for some reason, it hasn't got a lot of attention, but it has such great health benefits. It reduces blood sugar, reduces cholesterol. It helps, all of those mommies out there who are breastfeeding. It's amazing for breast milk. And also, this is my experience, those that are like love sugar, have these really bad sugar cravings and want to like knock it completely, take a teaspoon and then put it in your mouth. It completely gets rid of your sugar craving. So it helps in maintaining, I guess, a good healthy diet. But so this is Hilbeh. Hopefully you'll make it on your own. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, it's a very quiet group tonight, which makes me nervous. Eva, are you here tonight? You haven't asked any questions. If you are, I didn't see your name pop up, but I can expect questions from certain people. So just to remind you, the chat is open. Please feel free to share any questions for Doreet about what she's making or anything else, and I'll make sure that we get them and we can help answer. I'm going to share the Charoset recipe. Oh my God, you're right. Corey has pointed out that nobody has asked if you can freeze it. Where are you? So can you freeze it?
If my sister is online, I don't know if she's online. Hi, Liat, if you are. I am the queen of freezing. Yes. So this is how you would freeze. You would make the fenugreek powder, soak it overnight, spill out the water, and freeze the gel. For sure, you can freeze it up to like whatever, 6 months in a really tight container. Now, if you have already made Hilbeh, that will last up to 2 weeks in your refrigerator. Up to. So it could be slightly less, but up to 2 weeks.
So if you would freeze it, then when you defrosted it, you'd let it come to room temperature, and then you would do the rest of the process in the blender.
Exactly.
So somebody asked a question, and they want to know I think the question really is, how was Hilbeh traditionally made in Yemen before there was a food processor? Because my assumption is that today in Yemen, of course, people have kitchens with food processors, but how was it made in the past before there were food processors?
And a big spoon, wooden spoon. The Saxo, the grandmothers would sit with a big bowl, and they would just keep stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring until it could be hours, until it was frothy.
Where can you buy, where would you recommend people could buy fenugreek powder?
Okay, so you could purchase it at the Indian stores, but it depends on how they harvest it. It varies from culture to culture, the way it's processed. I highly recommend that you purchase from Pereg, and I'll show you. This is Pereg. You can buy it online from Pereg.com or even from Amazon. Okay, I have here in Northern California, we have a local spice company, and they also sell fenugreek powder, and they ship nationwide as well. So that's those two places, and I'm sorry, they're called Old Spice in Napa Valley. Those two places I would highly recommend. I've tested the spices, and those two are pretty high up there in taste, texture, just the way it mixes.
I'm looking to see what I can find on Amazon right now. They actually don't have the Peleg one, which is surprising, but I would admit, because Peleg is a like an Israeli kosher brand. So if you have a kosher market near you, I would imagine you could find it there, or there are some online kosher supermarkets. But that's a great question. All right, I'll see a couple questions coming in. The first was called Peleg is the brand, and it's fenugreek powder.
Right.
So Peleg is Peleg. I'll put it in here. Pereg.
EG.
Pereg. Sorry. See, that's why I couldn't find it online. Pereg. See. And then there was somebody else. Well, so maybe you could share one more time. Somebody was asking, do you use it as a condiment? How do you use it? So maybe you could just repeat that one more time.
Absolutely. So it's used as a condiment, a dip, however a relish, as medicine. I mean, it's used any which way. I've seen it spread on bread. Like a hummus, you spread on the bread. You put it in soup. You take a heaping tablespoon, stick it inside your soup, so it floats on the liquid, and you'll just sip your soup that way. Also, as a dip, you just rip bread and then dip it in, and then you eat it. When we have, it's traditionally eaten with lachuch. Lachuch is that spongy bread, and I believe I've demonstrated that here on Nosher. It has little holes, so it really soaks up all of those liquids, and especially the Hilbeh sticks to it. It's great. So yeah, be creative.
Could you describe the flavor for somebody who hasn't tasted it before? And also, could you share a little bit about the kinds of soups that you would enjoy it on? I know soup is kind of a big part of Yemenite culture. There's a lot of very delicious soups, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So with regards to taste, it does have a bitter taste. Now, we've added lemon, and we've added the spice cube, and we add some seasoning. It does need seasoning, okay, for it to taste better. It's an acquired taste, but people become accustomed to it very quickly, and it tastes great when you eat it with something. On its own, it's so-so, but it has that bitter, lemony / even nutty flavor. And I don't know if that makes sense to people. You really have to try it to understand it, but it's unlike anything that you've tried. It's a very unique flavor. Along with its benefits, a little disadvantage here. When you eat it, and let's say it's a hot day or something, and you went for a run, I mean, it'll permeate through your skin, so you won't smell that great. But that's the only one disadvantage that I can think of. But and usually the soups that we eat, meaning the Yemenite cuisine, we have the basic Yemenite soup, which includes Hawaij. Hawaij is a spice blend that includes cumin, curry, turmeric, all that great stuff. And it's a yellowish sort of soup, and it's made with chicken, and potato, and carrots, and celery. We also have something called marak legel, which is beef bone soup. That too has Hawaii in it, but it's on the basis of, has a tomato base, so it's darker in color. We also have marak shuit, a bean soup. I mean, everything, all the soups have some sort of Hawaii flavor to it. So, but Hawaii, again, is another staple spice that was created in Yemen and is used in many of our dishes.
Could you talk about the differences between Hawaij?
Yes, so there's types of Hawaii. Hawaii, which is a savory blend. Like I said, it has turmeric, curry, and cumin, pepper. And then the Hawaii for coffee is a sweet blend. So that's used for coffee. I also use it for cookies as well. It would be comparable to like what you would consider a pumpkin spice, because it has cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon, cardamom, ginger. So it's a very sweet blend. It's wonderful, and it also has great benefits, obviously, you know, with the cinnamon and the ginger and everything else. So typically it's steeped, I guess, in tea or coffee, and you just drink it up. It's such a unique flavor. It's great, and you can bake with it as well.
I would highly recommend both of those things. I bake with it and put it in my coffee often.
Yeah.
So okay, for one more time, I'll put it in the chat again. It's Pereg, Pereg. I found it on Amazon. I'll link it again. And then Hawaij, you would spell 8. I'm saying it like an American, Hawaij. Autocorrect will change it to Hawaii, but it's Hawaij, not Hawaii. I'll add the links again. Sorry. All right, Doreet, you go ahead. No, you may not say hi.
So, shall we on more questions to Charoset?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So with Charoset, you will need your blender. I'm so sorry, not your blender, your food processor. So with Charoset, again, just like, you know, any other culture, like the European, it's a mixture, right? Charoset basically is, what it means is like, it's cheres. It comes from the root word cheres, which means clay. So Charoset is symbolic of, if you're using on the Seder plate, it's symbolic of the mud, the straw, the clay that was used to help build the pyramids, right? So the slaves, the Hebrew slaves, this is what they used to build the pyramids. So this is symbolic of that. Typically, the Yemenites, the original Charoset looked like mud. It was like this hard consistency. Today, we know Charoset to be more liquidy, more sweeter, more, you know, it has that moist value to it. So too today the Yemenites make that sort of similar. Now, what makes it Yemenite is, again, the Hawaij for coffee. So we're using the sweeter blend now, okay? So let's start, okay? Yemenite Charoset is also synonymous with the word duke. Duke, I'm not sure why Yemenites call it. I believe someone had said it was referred to, Charoset was referred to duke in a story. And I don't know why Yemenites adapted duke as Charoset for Passover. Okay, so we're going to start. And literally, there is no order. You just put all the ingredients in and you mix it. And this is interesting because, again, I based this on memory. So again, I had to document this. So measurements may vary depending on your preference, okay? So we have here, we'll put in 10 to 15 cups of pitted dates. Make sure you take those pits out because we don't want it ruining the food processor, the blade. Let me put just a little bit in there because I don't want to overload it so quickly. I'll put in a little bit and I'll add some more in. I'm going to add the 1/4 cup of sweet red wine, Concord wine, Manischewitz wine, however you want to call it. Put that in. 1/2 cup of walnuts. So put in more based on your preference, less. Again, this is, you can't, you can't ruin this. It's really, just try it as you go along to make sure it suits your taste buds. And then we have here a teaspoon of Hawaij. Let me show you what that looks like. Again, Hereg has Hawaij. You can buy it through them. Or again, this whole spice, they're in Napa Valley. They have amazing Hawaij too. So whole spice, you can get it from there. And also a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I put a teaspoon of Hawaij blend and a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to stick that in there. I also cut up some Granny Smith apples right here. And it has a tangier flavor, or tart flavor, excuse me, just to help offset the sweetness. So it's nice balance. Let me put that in there. Again, I'm not going to put all of the apples in there. Like I said, I don't want to overload the processor just yet. Allow it to mix. And take a peek. Great. So right now it's a little, I would say, grainy, not grainy, but a little clumpy. I want to blend it so it's nice and smooth. So I want to just talk about a little bit some of the traditions for Yemenite Jews during Passover, which is, very different from the typical, I guess, European culture. The Yemenites learned through visuals, through previous generations. Again, nothing was really documented. This is how they learned. It's like Torah Bal Peh. It's what they heard, what they saw is what they know. And that's how they learned. So basically, the Seder or the Passover, there was no concept of a Seder plate, for example. They never had a Seder plate. It was really brought by the European Jews. The table during Passover was the Seder plate. So they would decorate the table with all of the items that are on the plate. So it would be the zroa, the beitza, the karpas, the charoset, the chazeret. That would be kind of decorated all on the table. So the table was pretty much the plate, and they would cover it with a big sheet, and then they would kind of like show it right before they sat down to eat the Haggadah. They would show the table, which was beautiful. They would decorate it so nicely. There was a nice custom that they, I'd like to cherish that and hopefully keep that alive as well. Another thing, just like Jews were oppressed all over the world, so too the Jews in Yemen. There were some periods of tolerance, but living in a predominantly Muslim country is hard. So the Passover was really their holiday of freedom and their time to shine and teach the younger generation. And so it's a really important holiday for the Yemenite Jews, as so too with all the other, everybody. So I don't want to exclude anybody. It's a very important holiday for us. So yeah, I just added a little bit more wine. I noticed that it was a little bit too clumpy. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit of what you see here. So basically you're going to get a light brown mixture here, sort of like that This actually could be processed even more to get a smoother consistency, but it's getting there. So basically that's pretty much it. It's absolutely delicious. I eat this by the spoon. It's amazing. And the Hawaij for the coffee gives it that wonderful kick that you won't get anywhere else. You can make this ahead, at least 2 to 3 days ahead. But if you do, don't put the apples in because the apples may brown and brown it slightly. So I would say put the apples in prior, like the day of, would be great. But again, this can be ahead of time.
We have a couple questions, Doreet. One question, which I assume the answer is yes, but can you use grape juice if you don't want to or can't use wine?
That's a great question. No, why not? I mean, give it a try if you don't have wine. But there is you want the Concord has this depth to it, and it really does add to the Charoset. Again, I'm not saying no, you can't. Give it a whirl. Try it out. I would love for this person to taste the difference. And I want to say the red wine really helps with flavor.
And somebody wants to know, is the texture, if you make it smooth, is it like a peanut butter texture?
A little bit thicker,
Okay.
a little bit grainier. You'll have a little puffs, but yeah.
You like to process when you make it for your family, you make it very smooth?
I do because I have kids, and kids are very finicky about texture.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're right. I don't lumpy at all. I mean, the taste is amazing, but they prefer it a little bit more smoother. Yeah.
And one more question. If you're going to make coffee with Hawaij spice, how would you do that? I tell you how I do it, but I'm probably doing it the wrong way because I'm also eating the Trader Joe's schug. So how would you do it, Doreet?
I'm sure you're doing it just right. There's really nothing to it, honestly. So you would just take a teaspoon of this, put it in your coffee, let it steep a little bit for about a minute, and then you're good to go, and you drink it. And don't be scared of the little floaties on top, okay? You drink all of it. Down it. Okay.
It's really, I have to say, it's really lovely. So give it a whirl. In Doreet's recipe, which I shared a couple times in the chat, but is also on the Nosher's homepage. So if you go to www.thenosher.com, both the recipes that Doreet is showing tonight are there. And she says it's equal parts of cardamom, ginger, I forget the other spices, but it's all there, and she has ingredients for it. So you can definitely make your own Hawaii spice or make a lot of it and keep it around, and then you can have it for baking and coffee, etc.
Yep.
Okay, Julie, thank you for the many questions. Julie wants to know, will you come back and teach Nosher audience to make some malawach?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Okay.
Guys, it takes time and it takes patience, especially malawach.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to find a time. We're gonna have to find a time to do it. I've only ever made it once with a chef, and it's hard. But I'm ready. I'm up for the challenge. So we're gonna have to find a time to do that.
Love it.
Oh, Roz, that's so nice that you're gonna try it with dates this time. That's great. Looks like somebody related to you has a wonderful question, which is, what does Hawaij mean?
Wow. Hawaij is an Arabic word. Okay, I don't know, but I'm going to guess. Mixture. That's all. I have no idea. I don't know Arabic. I don't know. That's a great question. Oh my gosh, you got me, whoever asked that question.
I don't think it's very nice for one of your relatives to set you up with a question you didn't know the answer to. If somebody who's related to you is going to ask you a question, it better be a setup, people. Ask her the easy ones. Okay. We have a few minutes left, so if anybody else, okay, Talia has a question. Talia, I knew I could count on you. Can you explain again the difference between the two different Hawaij blends, the coffee one and the savory one?
Absolutely. So Hawaii, the savory blend includes cumin, turmeric, curry, pepper. What else? A lot more, but it's yellow in the visual. It's a yellow blend, okay? So it will turn your food yellow for sure. Savory only, and that would mean in soups. It would be used as marinade, like on a steak or chicken. You can use it. Now the other Hawaii, also spelled the same way. It's Hawaii for coffee, and that's what it would say on the package: Hawaii for coffee and Hawaii for soup. It will distinctly say that. Now for the coffee blend, it's for sweet. So that would be cardamom, cloves, ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg. So that's that blend in there. And that's what you have for coffee or baked. You can bake it. And it's comparable to what you would call a pumpkin spice. So yeah, so use it. And I would bake with it. Bake pies, cookies, anything you want.
So somebody just Googled it. Thank you, Sue. And Doreet is right. Hawaij means mixture.
Oh my God. All right.
We know you are one smart cookie.
There you go.
I know we didn't talk about this, but your family is Israeli, and somebody's asking, is there a big Yemenite community where you are in California? There's not, but there's a big Israeli community, right?
There is. The Israelis here are kind of, we're in tech world here, so of course there's Israelis, but they're kind of all over their place. There's not one community, but we have forums and we try and connect together. But yeah, there are many Israelis in the Bay Area for sure, but not typical Yemenite community.
Is there of any significance Yemenite Jewish community in the United States? That's my own question.
Well, wherever there's a Yemenite shul, there's going to be a Yemenite community. Brooklyn, I want to say, I'm thinking more East Coast right now, yeah. like Brooklyn, Brooklyn area.
Okay.
Oh, Queens too, Queens as well, because I lived in Queens for a little bit. There was I remember a Yemenite restaurant, so there were quite a few. Again, I didn't do my research. I wasn't there for long enough to really know.
New York missed out. Somebody wanted to know earlier if there's a Malach bar in New York or on the East Coast. So hopefully there'll be Malawach taking over in many parts of the U.S. All right, this is your last chance. Any last questions before we let Doreet go on with the rest of her night? Greg says, I live in San Jose, California, and I'm excited to come up to your new location in Palo Alto and visit your store for some takeout.
Thank you.
Everyone is saying thank you, thank you. Doreet, I want to thank you yet again for sharing your time and your knowledge and beautiful energy with us.
Happy Passover. Chag Pesach Sameach v'Kosher.